All right. It's coming. It's coming. Mm-hmm.
Are we on?
Yep, we're on. Well, almost. Yep, now we are.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Political Head Trauma, where
If Head Trauma had a podcast, it would sound like this.
I still love that. I just still love that.
It's
Hope
really
that guy's
too
doing
bad
okay.
that old Brian shot.
Wishing the best for Brian. Brian, you ever want to come on the show and tell your side? Come on.
Diligently worked himself out of a career.
I'd love to have him on the show.
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
He's kind of my muse for naming the show. So good on you, Brian. Good for you. So I'm excited. Today at 7, we're going to welcome Representative Bridger Bollinger, who represents 3 different counties, Juab, Tooele County, and I'm not for sure the other one. But mainly Tooele County is where he matters to us.
Maybe a little into Cache, or not Cache,
No.
Box Elder. I don't know.
I don't
But
know
anyways,
Box Elder.
his area is spread out. It's crazy. It looks like a
enormous.
L.
It's very big, and it's something that I find that, and we're not going to have a lot of time with him, only 30 minutes, but what I find is when I talk to other chairs and stuff that work in those counties, they always say that Bridger is highly engaged in their county, and it makes me so happy because he's highly engaged in ours. And I mean, that is a representative's job, yes, but we've noticed over the years that it's not the norm. So when you get someone that's highly engaged with you and they want to actually, help you and do all of that, I think we're winning. So we're excited to talk to him. We're going to go over session and what's coming up with session, anything going on in his office and what's coming out of his office, out of our county, as well as, big picture items of what's been talked about in session. A lot of the bills and things that go up for legislative session have been worked on for the past year. So it's not like they just start writing bills when session starts. So it's all happening now, and they're deciding on what's happening, what's going to the floor and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that at 7. So before then, we just got to catch up on the week. And I just want to know what people thought of that. I think I called it on Friday night of what that fight was about with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. I thought, and I said this on the air, that this is just a money grab for Tyson and a popularity grab for Paul. But Tyson, I was afraid he was going to throw the fight. But then I heard the contract, he had to last at least 8 rounds to get his money. There were a lot of times when he should have taken a shot and didn't.
Looks like a couple times he might have pulled a shot, so he did that hook, but cut it real close to himself, so it missed.
And did you notice how he kept biting his glove?
Mm-hmm.
I almost wonder if that was his way to stop himself from doing a natural punch, because when you watched his training videos, okay.
Remember, this is to get paid.
Yeah. His training videos, you knew this wasn't like we're going to send an old man into a ring. Well, this is Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. But I feel like he needed the money.
It did look like he got gassed out. No, I'm not going to say it was definitely fake or anything like that. Looked like he got gassed out. Paul didn't show up like I thought he would either.
No, he's calling on what's his name next, that he wants to fight, the MMA for UHC fighter he's been retired now. I mean,
UHC?
UFC? UFC, sorry. Conor McGregor, I think.
Oh, Conor McGregor. Okay.
Conor McGregor. What, Paul? You just want to call out people who retired? Why don't you fight some of the newbies?
Well,
fight
maybe
some of them with fire, but I don't think they want him in that genre. He's like a YouTube sensation, and I don't know. I don't know if they're going to want him in that genre. So that's just me. And it's probably boring to talk about boxing, but it reiterated the reason why I don't pay for boxing and for fights anymore. And Netflix couldn't even handle the stream. I mean, it went down.
Now, I don't think it was Netflix. I think it was people's local internet connections because I had no problem the whole time.
Well, there's a guy who just did a lawsuit filed in Florida against Netflix.
Sure. I don't think it was Netflix because it played on, well, okay. So I had to go down to the store to get some stuff. So I watched it on my phone while we shopped and then drove home. So I was a few minutes behind. And we came in. So I watched it on my phone. And then Jackson watched it on the big TV and Maston watched it downstairs on his TV with a friend. None of us had any delays. I think it was when internets crashed because all at one time traffic.
Maybe. I mean, I watched it on my phone, but any of the streaming that was, internet related, I was on the Verizon data. I had turned my Wi-Fi off. But, you know,
we watched it on 3 different screens here and it went through. But anyways, it is what it is.
Can we talk about the potential escalation that this deadbeat president is taking us into? Should we get into that?
Sure.
Ukraine has just launched United States missiles into Russia. Russia retaliated with a weapon that is not one I think we've seen before.
Well, it's the first time that a multiple
I agree,
re-entry vehicle weapon has been used in war. So what that means, according to people that I listen to, and I don't know, is that one missile flies up and then it separates into multiple aimable re-entry vehicles, and then they come down. It's the first time one has ever been used in war. There's very few countries that have them, hopefully, according to what we know. But that's the response that Russia sent after Ukraine sent a rocket into Russia.
And he had warned Ukraine, thereby warning the United States. Our lame duck president not only armed Ukraine with weapons that he was not supposed to, and has been for the last 2 years. I mean, it's like going out the door. He is going to have a war started that may be too big to stop. And maybe that's even the point. Maybe they're trying to make it so Trump can't reach peace because we're in World War III, or those two are just killing each other.
Or maybe he just wants that one last Ukrainian payout. Like he just sent him over money that
$8 billion.
Thomas Massey and Rand Paul were trying to push through a blocking action in Congress, which I don't know. How weird is that you've got a month left in office, month and a half, and you're going to push money out the door that's not accountable to the people, doesn't go through Congress or any of that.
Matt Jones, Tyson didn't even engage back in the day. He was always engaging. Back in the day, he would have someone on the floor in 30 seconds. I saw it once, 2 seconds. I mean, he didn't waste any time, and he was a viper back in the day. He didn't have to go the entire rounds because he had him knocked out so quick. And I do believe that it was a scripted fight. And I think that Paul could never have stood against Mike Tyson. And they made Mike Tyson look old and feeble.
He started looking that way through the fight. It was kind of hard to watch.
Yeah. It stopped being hey, let's see what happens. It started to be like watching the Olympics, watching that dude beat the hell out of a girl.
But I do want to say that girl boxing match, that ladies boxing match
the one
beforehand. Whoa, that was a good fight. That is, and maybe that's the future of boxing, is to watch. I mean, it wasn't entertaining. It was a great fight. I dug it. And maybe that's the future. Maybe we do know that there's a lot of traction to watch MMA with the female fighters, and boxing. I mean, this might be a way that that roars into the consciousness. And
Not for me. I won't pay for another fight. I know that.
Well,
After the whole Pacquiao crap that happened, and
I think
these fights are fixed, and the judges aren't seeing the same fight we're seeing, or
I think pay-per-view fights are done anyway.
yeah. And the thing is, I
After
would much rather
Netflix-
watch UFC any day. I love UFC. I, though, am not someone who enjoys watching two women beat the crap out of each other. I respect that it happens, and I appreciate the Ronda Rousey and the intensity of it, but it's not something I would pay money to see.
I would watch that. I would watch either of those two ladies in their future fights. I will thoroughly enjoy watching
Would you
those.
pay?
I think pay-per-view might be gone.
No, I mean, like, in a world where, because like I pay for UFC fights.
Sure, but I think pay-per-view is on its way out.
Who's going to pick up UFC?
I think we're going to see it go on to a model like Netflix. Maybe it'll become a package with Disney Plus or Hulu or whatever. I just think pay-per-view is on its way out.
But let's say it's not, and there's a fight like that. Would you pay for it?
Oh, that's tough. I might. I don't know. I mean, very rarely have I paid for any of the pay-per-view. I've jumped on board when a buddy has paid for it and threw in a few bucks and went over to their house and made it a little house party, but I don't know.
Yeah, my husband and I would throw many a house party for boxing, for UFC. And I mean, UFC I still would do, but not boxing.
Well, I just want to shout out those two ladies. I forget their names, but they were outstanding.
Yeah, they were the best part of the fight.
But we drifted. We started
'cause
into the topic of
we both have
escalation.
ADD.
Boy, this is tough. What if they kick off World War III right before the Dawn gets in, and
That's what I'm worried about. And what president can deal then?
I don't know. Or what if they just escalate it to a point that when he gets in, it kicks off? I don't know. Interesting times, wild times.
I just wonder what benefit do they get out of this? The only thing that can happen, the way this ends, is death. And lots more of it. There's already been so much death. Why would the United States put their missiles into that country, put their jets in that country? I mean, Ukraine's not even a member of NATO. And Ukraine does what for the US to entitle us to send over all these weapons just so more and more people die? I think the world has gotten to a place where we're sick of war, especially war that we're putting our nose into. And right now, we don't have boots on the ground, allegedly.
Who said laundromats were dead?
It's gotten to the point where
I promise you that there are boots on the ground. It's just there.
Hi, Mom. That's why I did this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Matt says what you may not have known was the American missiles launched from Ukraine could not be operated by Ukrainian soldiers. Those missiles had to be operated by U.S. personnel. It's my understanding. So you're right. They are leaving Trump a mess. Yikes.
Yep.
Yikes. People, this is why Trump won. The United States agrees that we're done with these wars. We should be protecting the homeland, protecting Americans first, and producing and helping the world after helping ourselves. This is insanity. And they said the man couldn't stand trial in his own trial because of his mental acuity. But they're talking about having Trump given the nuclear codes and that we're in trouble. The man who can't stand trial has the nuclear codes, folks. And he doesn't have to push one button. All he has to do is get Putin to do it.
I'm hoping those codes are verbal. Then
just have them be in numbers. He's never got numbers right.
That'll give it a delay. Adam says Obama and the deep state are lashing out like toddlers who didn't get dessert. They are trying to poison the well for Trump, and that is a definite concern. Now, I don't know. Maybe you need to be clear. Look, Putin is not a good guy, and Zelensky is
He's
not a
not a
good
good
guy.
guy.
And Russia is not inherently just by its being good or bad, and neither is Ukraine. It's a complicated system or a complicated situation that was marched into. If I was, it almost seems planned, like they wanted this outcome, but I don't. God, I hope not. But it just seems too good that at every turn there was kind of a backhand action against Russia, and maybe that's just a holdover from the Soviet Union and what they did and everything else. I don't know.
Then why do the reset under Obama? Why try to do the reset? Why try to make things good? I mean, Obama didn't play when Ukraine wanted military supplies back in the day. Obama sent them blankets, if you recall.
No,
He
that's
wasn't like sending them weapons and going to war with Russia or telling them, hey, we took out that pipeline. I mean,
but Obama's
pulling the strings now, people think.
CIA was present during their color revolution.
I want to understand. Biden's not running this country. Somebody else is running the country and making these decisions. And I don't understand what we benefit.
What if China?
Actually, I figured it out.
It's not about our benefit.
Oh, I know what we benefit. We get to rebuild. The war machine keeps going.
Yes, well, we get to sell it all the time, but what if
dead air?
Okay, so here's kind of how it played out. So Ukraine, I forget the president's name.
Zelensky?
No, this is before Zelensky. It's before the guy before Zelensky. He gets elected and they start working out a deal with the UN, a trading deal, not joining the UN, just a trading deal. And the UN put in some stipulations that were economically and fiscally restrictive on the Ukrainian people, and the Ukrainian people didn't like it. And so Russia offered them a comparable deal, but it didn't have the restrictions. So they turned and leaned towards Russia. And I'm saying, 51-49% split on the population. So lo and behold, a couple months after that, they have a color revolution. Yes, there are some CIA guys there just to witness the color revolution. They're not paying for the stuff. But so that goes on. So Russia kind of gets a black eye over that. And then there was some sniper actions there that I remember was in the news pretty bigly. Well, okay. And so that president gets overthrown. He runs to Russia. They have a new guy get put in charge, a guy that we and the UN decided to have. And one of that guy's first moves, and this one's
You mean
the interesting.
The comedian that used to play piano with his.
This is before Zelensky. Zelensky is like the next guy. They outlaw speaking Russian in Ukraine. So Eastern Ukraine is dominantly Russian speaking. And it's kind of the poor side of Ukraine, kind of the backwater of Ukraine. Because yes, if you live closer to Europe.
What language does Ukrainians speak then?
Ukrainian.
There's is it like Russian?
But it's the cousins. But there is so if you live closer to Russia, you're more like you live in the backwaters. And if you live closer to Europe, you live European, because in Ukraine, European is better. European windows. European. Yeah. And so, but your military traditionally comes from your poorer backwater communities.
So what are you getting to?
If you would be quiet and let me finish and quit interrupting me every 2 minutes.
Clear to back.
No, I'm just explaining this because no one knows what's going on here. They just see the here and now. You don't want me to explain it? I won't. All right.
No, I want you to explain it, but get us to here.
Could you stop interrupting me then?
Yes.
Thank you. So the military all quits.
The Ukrainian?
Yes, the military, they lose like 60% of their military in a week. They all quit, walk off the job. That's where the Azov battalion comes from,
Question, legit question.
yes.
During this time,
Mhm.
what is the form of government in Ukraine? Is it communist? Is it republic? Like, is it a democracy?
It's Democratic Republic like everything else in Europe.
And so now, like, he's been able to stall the votes and it's slowly becoming really, really a dictatorship.
Well, yeah, war footing republic is what he's under
Okay.
right now.
And so people could quit and still live there. They didn't have to run to Russia, or did they?
No,
Okay.
no. And so they lost their military.
Hi,
And
Christy.
I don't know, if this is boring, we can move on.
I just want to get to where we are right now. Who installed Zelensky? Because I know before Zelensky, the United States knew they were all corrupt as hell. And when Trump got in, he called him out on it.
Mhm.
I mean, he straight called him out. Before that, Obama said, we're not doing anything with Ukraine. We're staying out of your guys' issue. Obama stayed out of it and actually tried to do a reset with Russia.
I think the reason Obama stayed out of it was because he saw the backlash on Syria.
And I thought that he was using Russia, their help in Syria.
No.
Because Russia was also had vested interest in Syria.
Yes, on the opposite side.
See, this is what's so crazy. There's no transparency here. We all have to just figure it out based on actions.
Russia was supporting the Syrian government. We were supporting the rebels.
Okay.
And the best part is our military side was supporting one group of rebels, and our CIA was supporting another group of rebels, and they often went to war against each other.
Which is what always happens. Our CIA picks favorites and our government picks favorites, and then they decide later to have those favorites killed or hung in the square or whatever. And all of this is in the shadows. And at the end of it, what do we gain by Biden doing what he's doing right now? What do we have to gain other than a war-torn country that keeps a fight going on and keeps our military industrial complex going? And Obama or Biden can retire with tons of money invested or already waiting for him that's been laundered through that country. Like, why else? And to leave Trump a shit show that he will not be able to get on top of as president. And that's to say that if a nuke doesn't get taken or, launched within this time frame, we have 60 days. You know how much damage could be done in 60 days? In 2 hours, that damage could be done. 60 days, $8 billion more. No audit on the funds that's gone to Ukraine. The American voter wanted this over. And we have press on the ground in Gaza, but the press isn't on the ground in Ukraine. Not that's showing all of us. So it's even a shadow war. We don't know where our money's going. And you're right. I bet we have military on the ground there launching those missiles that were the red line Putin drew in the sand.
Isn't it amazing that that a president can unilaterally send billions without a congressional vote?
It should be unconstitutional, isn't it? We say the House is the purse. They have to decide and to even engage in war, the president is supposed to get approval from the Senate. What is happening? Why have we given all this power to the government? People have lost their kids, their limbs, their lives, their future in these wars that have nothing to do with you and I, the American citizen, under the guise of, well, if we fight them over there, we won't fight them here. I'm sorry. What war are we in a fight here with Ukraine? What do we gain by having generations get slaughtered over there? And we're not fans of Putin, but I'm sorry. I've got a little bit of sympathy for him in his situation. because he doesn't want to kill any more of his people unless they're rich oligarchs. You know how easy it is to fall out of a window in Russia?
Oh,
If I was a rich oligarch, I would not live or go near a building taller than 1 story.
I don't know. Well, you can be a rich oligarch in Russia. Just be on his side.
But don't be too good, because then you might be a threat that the people might like you.
Here's the crazy thing is the Wagner guy, the head of the Wagner guy, Putin's chef, hasn't been killed as far as I know yet.
Wow, that's winning.
The one that had the rebellion against him and drove the tanks towards Moscow. Do you remember that?
Yeah. That was years ago, wasn't it?
No, that was last year.
Okay.
But he hasn't been killed yet. How wild is that? Like, he's made it. So maybe.
How many of you are in the Gen X boomer era where nuclear war was actually a threat that scared you as a kid? It's like, it was a real fear. For me as a kid, it was a real fear. You too, right? I mean, that was the worry you had as a kid, whereas our kids now are worried about global warming or natural disasters. We were worried about nuclear war. And okay, thank you, Sherry. Many of us, that was a real fear. Why is our press not leaning on this and saying, whoa, hey, Madam Press Secretary, why the hell is Biden continually sending billions to Ukraine? Why is the United States giving missiles that are way, way against the rights of war, according to the agreement that Putin had with whatever Zelensky and him had in place, or what he has against, the United States, where he said, look, they can fight, but if you're gonna provide them jets and you're gonna provide them deadly missiles that are going inside Russia, you are fighting a war with us. Like, what? Why is our military? Where's our press calling out this government? Thought there was going to be a peaceful transfer of power. I think World War III. What would happen if they did start World War III over there? How long would it take to affect other countries? The fallout of a nuclear warhead.
That I don't know. There's not a lot of fallout with nuclear bombs.
So if they did decide that, and everyone would have to decide, because China would rush probably to Russia's aid. Who's to say they wouldn't have a lot of our sites already pinned down, because we are complicit in what Ukraine is doing now. Everything they're sending now is the United States flag on it. And this is insane to me.
You're not wrong.
What do you think? Do you think the plan is to just wreck the country or wreck the situation for Trump when he gets in? Do you think it's that childish? Because we're dealing with people's lives here. Or do you think it's bigger? Is the deep state want to go to world war?
They might just be setting up a complication for the next administration that gets in. It might be. I'm not saying people who want to protect Ukraine from Russia are being dishonest. I think they're being fully honest. I think I'll even go as far as to say I think they're being noble in it.
Who is?
The people who are, I'm still manning.
Soldiers?
I'm still manning them. No, like our politicians and that. I do think, regardless, you can't argue that we did not play a part in escalation over there.
You mean like cutting the pipeline?
Like
blaming it on Ukraine, or
like supporting the what was it, the Maidan rebellion, That was their color revolution, supporting all that. Um, so you can't say we didn't play a part in that. And maybe it's a part of that bigger kind of global shift we've talked about before, where uh, the more wealth you have, you're inherently bad, and the less wealth you have, you're inherently better than, in comparison. Maybe it's a part of that. Maybe that's just sunk in so deep on every turn. It doesn't seem to apply in Yemen, which now, I mean, that's something to talk about. Yemen's turned into an extremist state because of our support of what Saudi Arabia did over there. I don't know. Maybe we just got to go through this veil to see what's on the other side.
Adam says, West exec, I don't know what he said above. Is that same him? Ukraine is a strategic position on the map. That's it.
Well, sure,
and
it is.
That is true. And it's a viable place for Putin. I mean, Putin needs that location, right? Isn't that through to his ports and everything else?
Yeah. If you look at the map, you'll see there's a road that cuts from Kiev that opens up, and it kind of leads to why Belarus would be involved in it as well. It kind of opens up a pathway down to the Black Sea, so that there's ports open, and it gives them a big freeway. And that was a deal that he had prior to the Maidan rebellion, and then it started kind of fizzling out then, and so then, wasn't really an invasion then. It was supported, but it was kind of a civil war started after that. And both sides can argue in confidence on this situation, that's for sure.
So he says West Exec is a DC think tank that staffed and ran the Obama and Biden administrations, and the mainstream press calls them out in this order: conservatives more than Republicans, more than moderate Dems, more than each other. Repeat. Again, it's a dance, and I don't understand. We haven't heard a ton, at least I haven't. I know you listen to other things than I do. Do you hear a ton on what's happening in Israel over these last couple of weeks?
No, they've been fairly quiet.
I mean, when Trump got elected, Hamas asked for a ceasefire.
Yeah, Hamas asked for a ceasefire.
Hi, Heather.
Hamas's best option right now is to they should honestly just have a little rebellion within their own ranks, gather up all the guys who planned it and hand them over to Israel. That would be their best option.
So Heather asks a great question, and this is something that we toiled with when David Pine was on the show, because first and foremost, we do not support Putin. He's a murderer. He's the bad guy. However,
he's a bad
guy. Yes, thank you. He's a bad guy who cares a lot about his country, and he loves the power. We know that, but he wants to secure his country and not be bulldozed by the USA or anyone else. But she asks, so is Russia justified? And I answer this. He said, I mean, there was like a rule, nuclear war. Russia owns the most. I mean, they're a nuclear superpower in this country, as far as we know, in this world, because a lot of presidents have gotten rid of our nukes. Like, not all of them, but they started to, and I don't think Russia did. But for them to launch the missiles that Ukraine has launched into Russia was totally unacceptable, according to Putin. And he did draw a red line and said, if you do this, I am prepared to launch a nuclear weapon. I'm not above it, especially if they're going after big cities in Russia where there's a large population. And so I think Putin is justified in his retaliation, just as Zelensky is justified in whatever they're doing in their own minds. But on the outside looking in, they both should stop it. They're toying with nuclear war, world war. world war. We are not obligated to either of these as allies, correct? We don't have a treaty with either.
Mhm.
So the fact that our country's involved, that your paychecks are going straight to Ukraine, and this president is making sure that every last available dollar is going to get to Ukraine in the next 60 days. 8 billion. 8 billion. He's like, well, we've got 8 billion that's going to go to Ukraine. And it's said to the press as like, oh, so this is happening today. Like, it's no big deal. When it's a huge deal. $8 billion on top of the hundreds of billions were already sent over there. They're guesstimating it's probably over 300 billion. And the fact that we don't know should piss everybody off, in my opinion. Like, how much have we spent into Israel? How much have we given to Yemen? How much are we sending to Iran? These numbers matter. And I think the whole point of this with Trump and the decision to pick him and to vote for him is to rein in all these dollars we're spending, one, to other countries, and two, to countries who hate us. And we could be seriously funding our own demise with the weapons they're making, with the terrorist acts. I mean, they believe the money in Iran that was the way they funded that attack on Israel was through money that the United States opened up under this administration. Wasn't that the 400 million or something that we had of Iranian money that was sanctioned? Again, should we be sanctioning anybody? I don't know. I'm just tired. I'm tired of the United States being the king of the world. And it doesn't look good for us. And I think it's really dangerous.
I don't know what's going on. Look,
I didn't realize how close Ukraine is to Germany.
yeah, there's Poland between it.
You're the smartest person I know.
Why?
You just know so much geography and history.
Because I pay attention to this stuff. So see this river right here. For those watching, for those not, pull up a map of Ukraine. It's a big river that goes from Kiev on down, and it kind of, cuts across. It cuts across into the east, and that's the split. And on that side of the river, it's mostly, or was mostly, Russian speaking, and on the east side was the European. And I mean, this all starts because of kind of a bad deal. So Russia's seeking.
Where is Russia on here? Is
Right
that
here.
all Russia?
This is all Russia.
How far up does it go?
How far up does it
if
go?
If you were to go up, because I see the capital
to
right
the
there.
water.
So Russia's giant.
Yes, Russia's very giant.
And back in the day when we were kids, it was the USSR. So they had all these countries.
Yes.
Were one, like the United States of America. It was the United.
Okay, the USSR,
Soviet
Republic. Socialist Republic. It came all the way to here.
Okay. And Christy says, I've never understood why they think killing each other is going to solve anything. It's been the way of man since our existence. And it's over territory, or it's over politics, but I don't think Russia was really about territory necessarily. They just wanted access.
Well, that's an argument. I mean, when Russia invaded Georgia, that's because Georgia had entered into NATO, or entered into negotiations at first, and they're afraid of dual use missile platforms being on their border.
Now, to put it in retrospect, like into perspective, I should say, that is like Russia entering into an agreement with Mexico, and as an ally to Mexico, and then putting bases in Mexico along our border. So they're not attacking us, but they could anytime they want because they're right next door.
And they could also just hold you hostage. economic hostage. So it's not that there's a good guy or a bad guy in this situation. There's a lot of little blunders that add up to the world wars. Like someone once explained World War One as a lot of um, politically correct decisions that entered us into an incorrect war.
Politically correct. Explain.
So Gabriele Princip kills the Archduke. The Austro-Hungarian Empire makes a whole bunch of demands on the Balkans that
How
they
far
can.
back are you going? Like what year?
Well, this is 1913
Okay.
when it started.
Okay.
And so they keep getting escalations, and then bam, we're in a world war. We're in the second bloodiest thing I think it's the third.
When we fought with Russia against Afghanistan, did we not?
No,
Or we fought against them?
we made a little thing called Al Qaeda to fight the Russians.
Oh, see, America is just doing, and Al Qaeda now hates the West and wants to destroy us. That's great. Christy says, that's the problem. How the hell is this working for them? I'll tell you how it's working for Ukraine. They're getting richer and richer and richer.
Oh, well, they're not
Their
getting
country's
richer.
not, but the government is.
Yeah. And we're paying their retirement.
Their children's retirement.
Well, no, we're literally paying their country's retirement because they've lost all their employees. They're not building anything anymore.
They're not holding elections anymore, so they're not allowing for
frozen elections.
Somebody else to get into power and to maybe make a treaty with Russia and to end this war.
Yeah.
They have always been pretty sketchy in the way they've dealt with things.
The thing that bugs me, this is the one thing that I can blame us for, is Turkey had it lined up to have a peace treaty, and Zelensky was on board, Putin was on board, and they sent Boris Johnson over to explain to Zelensky how he shouldn't do that.
Boris Johnson's from the UK.
Yeah, he was the prime minister of the UK.
He wasn't for very long, was he?
Well, he was during COVID. COVID broke him, and then they got that lady.
She wasn't on for very long either.
Who was awful, and then they got that other guy who was awful, and now they got Keir Starmer, who is the awfulest of them all. But he was sent over, right?
What's he do?
They just put a new tax in. You may not have heard about this, but Great Britain just put a new inheritance tax in that is going to destroy all the small family farms.
Excellent.
And so everything's going to become this big industrial farming. The farmland is going to be owned by one or two megacorps, and no one can survive outside of that.
How on earth does that inheritance tax work when the queen dies and say leaves the kingdom a ton of money? Does that get seized by the government as well?
Well, I need to explain to you the difference between subjects and royalty.
See how jacked this is?
Honestly, England, you shouldn't have gave up your guns. You're going to need them.
Australia, you too.
Yep. Don't give up your guns. That's the difference between subjects and citizens, is the ownership of firearms. That's it.
Yeah. The ability to own any firearm, and as many as you want for whatever reason you want. I mean, you can have a shotgun, or, in England, if you get a special permit,
you have to get a permit to get anything, just like up in Canada.
Same in Australia as well. But yet they have to know who you are. And that's the first thing they come and get if there's any issue or question against the government. So This is insane time. We're living in Looney Tunes. We knew this though, right? We knew that the election was just the beginning and that it was going to be a cluster. It was too smooth when, oh, well, I like to have a peaceful transition of power. Well, yesterday you were calling me Hitler, but today, yeah, let's have that power. But all this chaos happening and the fact that our media is still just kind of gobsmacked where they just don't know, they can't believe the election was lost, or they're trying to figure out what's going to happen. But why the hell are they not banging down the White House door saying, stop the spending, stop helping Ukraine get us into World War III? Because Halliburton's not going to care. They love it. And all these other government contractors are just sitting back, waiting for that money to flow in. Even if Trump gets a treaty and they're able to stop the bombing and come to the table to discuss peace, who's going to rebuild Ukraine? We are. With our contractors, just like we rebuilt Iraq.
Couldn't we just figure out how to get Russia into NATO? Just get them all in there. Then they'd be in NATO against us probably. But no,
I just think we get out of NATO.
I agree. I'm looking at this map and it just occurred to me that of those small border countries, depending on the size of the border with which side is which side you come to side with. So Poland is the entrance into NATO. Poland hates Russia, hates them. That's an old terror that goes back to back to the wartime politics.
Show the map again so people can see, because Poland has got a couple countries that is in front of them before they hit Russian border, right?
Oh yeah.
But they're on Ukraine's border.
So you got, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus. So Belarus has this big convoluted border with Russia, and they're on Russia's side during this war, and they're the country just to the north of the Ukraine. But Poland is the enter into the West. Poland doesn't like Russia because, the Molotov Pact that was made with Germany, that was a pact between Russia and Germany. They planned on invading the same day. It's just Russia's slow. So, but yeah, so you enter that. So it seems like Ukraine's the split battleground on that. Just looking at it.
I'm just curious, what do you guys think? I mean, all of you are probably at least informed that this is happening, but I'm curious for those of you out there that have actually studied like Jared has, or you listen, I listen to Tucker Carlson, and some of this just, it's really scary, and you don't want to talk about it with your kids. I mean, at least it's not. When I was a kid, they made the made-for-TV movie, and they showed you what nuclear war looked like, and they showed you the videos of Hiroshima, and we learned about World War II, but we saw that bomb and that mushroom cloud, and then we experienced our own family, some of us, that were downwinders from the test site here right outside of Utah that made everybody sick and get cancer. And, all of this, we know the effects of nuclear war, and that dropping that bomb in World War II maybe ended that war. But then every developed country had to have one. And now they do. And Russia had to have lots, and they do. They have a lot. And what's bothering me is I don't want to get my kids scared about this, because this could be something that keeps them up at night. And I think Utah would be a fine target with all our bases here.
Maybe.
But we as citizens who have no say, we think we have a say because there's elections here, but we have really no say when a president is able to do these things without our representatives. And that has to be proof there's a shadow government, and proof that Biden is not running it, because I don't think he even knows what's going
I wonder
on.
what their handshake is. Wouldn't that be cool if they had like a kid and play handshake? There's a shout out to us Gen Xers.
Kid and play. Those were good times. Or the crisscross kids wore their pants to the back with my hat too. We laugh so we don't have to cry.
Bib
But
overalls backwards.
remember that? It was like
girls. That was a trend for girls back then. It had split their chestery in half. Oh,
not this girl.
We are a weird animal.
So, what's happening in Israel right now is that Trump was elected, and not even election night. I saw it the next morning. Hamas called for a ceasefire, and that's still going on. But that's been pretty quiet. But here we've got a lot going on over in Ukraine, and it's a scary thing. So I would love right now to talk about Utah and
talk about Twilla.
Well, I want to talk about session. So let's welcome Bridger Bollender, our representative, my representative. Hi, Bridger. How are you?
Hey, how are you guys doing? Can you hear me?
We can.
So tell us the 3 counties that you represent.
So my district is in the House of Representatives, District 29, and it covers all of Twilla County except for Twilla City and half of Verda and half of Stansbury. Then it goes over and takes the really rural part of Juab County, Callio, that area, and then it loops in all of Millard County. So I actually
Millard. That's what I missed.
All of Millard County. So it's a little interesting because I actually have 4 senators that overlap my House district. So it's kind of unique. And I like to brag about this a little bit. It's the 2nd biggest House district in the state. So it's something that I think is kind of cool. I put on a lot of miles, cover a lot of ground.
Well, I was telling the people that the other party chairs in your counties both act like you're highly engaged there, and they think it's amazing because their representative is around and they see them, and I think that's a testament to being a really good public servant, is that you are engaged even though you don't live there. You're there and you're listening and you're working with them really well. So congratulations on your reelection. Wasn't even close. So that's got to feel good.
No, it's cool to have it behind me. And, we worked hard. We ran a campaign. My district's really red, but I never take that for granted. And you mentioned earlier, I do represent those other counties that I don't live in. And even Juab County, I think I've got a total of maybe about 500 voters in my part of Juab County. And there's a little part of Juab County out by Callio, Trout Creek, Partoon. It's called, they have a group that meets regularly. They actually have a Chamber of Commerce, West Desert Chamber of Commerce. And shout out to Barbara Mum out there. I do coordinate with her, talk with her pretty regularly. And so try to cover the entire district. And I love Millard County and great people down there. And of course, my home is here in Grantsville. So, but anyway, it's a big job, but it's fun to get around. And I think I have the best district in the state.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree with you. Let's talk about, now that you're not a freshman anymore, now you've got 2 years in, and you have built some incredible friendships, I would say, on the Hill. People that really respect you. I know that the leadership and House leadership speaks very highly of you. You're apparently easy to work with, very smart, and you bring fresh ideas and perspective, being a business owner, and you got a young family. And so you hit the ground running, though, right out of the gate when you were first elected as a freshman. So that's got to be like, you learned a lot right in the fire, right?
Yeah, look, I think you're always learning, and there's so much to learn. And I think for me, I'll tell people this, and I'm honest about it, but before I got into the legislature, there were times that I was actually one of the critics of the legislature, right? And what up there. And so I kind of went in there thinking, look, I'm gonna do big things, and I've done some great things. But what I've realized is there is some really good people up there that care about our state, that love our state, they love the communities they serve, and you get a group of people that are good people, smart people, willing to sacrifice and give their time. We do get paid for it, right? So it's not complete, like not getting anything for it, but they're there and they're trying to solve the toughest problems that our state faces, and they get criticized while they do it. And so I think my perspectives changed quite a bit. I think realizing that these problems that our state faces are a group effort. You're only one vote up there, and so you've got to create good relationships to be able to get things done up there.
We're getting a little feedback. Are you getting feedback?
It's just his open mic. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay? I have my son playing in the background with some toys.
You're
Oh.
fine. Let your
Oh
kid
no, I
play.
didn't know if it was
You're still coming
us?
across. Just when you talk, it opens the mic and we hear the room around you, but it's fine. We
it's
still
fine.
hear you clearly. What are some of the I don't know, I guess bills you'll be working on this upcoming session that people might like, not the boring stuff. Let's bring out just the sexy, cool stuff.
Yeah, well, I find myself not running a lot of sexy, cool bills. I think they're important for our state, but they're not a lot of the ones that make the headlines in the media. Let me talk about the House and the legislature in general first, if that's okay, and then I'll talk
Yes.
about
Yes.
what I'm working on specifically. So, there this year, I think, we just finished an election. The election was, pretty controversial with some, I think, in our I'm talking about our state elections. We had some signature verification controversy. We had some different things like that. And I think those are bills that are coming about this next session to fix some of the problems
Good.
to correct some of the discrepancies that we're finding in our code, right? And so look, people reach out to me. There were people that were super supportive of one candidate, maybe were pretty negative against another candidate, and those people reach out to me and say, look, what are you going to do about this? And it's an interesting place for us to be in as legislators, because we're not law enforcement, we are lawmakers, right? And so when there's an issue that we find, we go back to the drawing board and we say, okay, how do we fix this going forward, right? And so we're committed to do that. I think there's a whole bunch of election bills coming up to make things better, create more transparency, to make voters feel like their vote really matters, and to make sure that some of these things that have happened don't happen again, right? So those are a couple of things. The other thing that's being worked on in the legislature, and I think this is really important for our state, is energy, right? Energy's been a big thing. I think, yesterday in committee, I was sitting there, it was a Natural Resources Committee. We're in there, we had Rocky Mountain Power, the president of Rocky Mountain Power actually sat there in our committee, and we asked him, questions, some tough questions actually, because we've seen rates for electricity in our state continue to go up, right? And
Right.
it's crippling to a lot of Utahns, right? And so when we look at the root cause of all of that, come to find out, Rocky Mountain Power covers our surrounding states, and I won't mention any names, but California is one, okay, that makes really bad policy decisions, and we have to, as Utahns, we have to pay for the mistakes that states like California make, right? And with higher rates. And so those are a couple of things that you're going to see. I think school choice will come up again. I think to expand that program, I think that's going to be important for those. I'm a school choice advocate. There will be a lot of things like that. The bills that I'm working on specifically, something that I think affects, we know it affects Tooele County and the most rural parts of our state, is we have this mechanism called transient room tax. And transient room tax is a tax that you pay on anytime you rent a
Hotels.
hotel room, anytime you rent an RV spot, anything like that. So the local municipality can charge a certain amount. The county is, we call it the local option. They're allowed to charge a certain amount, and then the state charges a certain amount. The issue that we have is this money is to be used for like promote and establish, right? Like promote tourism, which we want tourism. The issue we have in Twilla County is people come to Twilla County to recreate. 5 Mile Pass is a good example. They get hurt and they don't, we have to go rescue them. But when they come into our county, they don't buy gas, they don't buy groceries, they don't, right? And so, and you look at other rural parts of our state, I'll use Paiute County as an example, and Garfield. Some of these counties that are kind of gateways to national parks, even, right? They'll go, people go and they get hurt, they do dumb things, right? And then search and rescue has to go and take care of these people, but there's no money to compensate them for that. So that's something I've really been diving into a lot this year, and it's been an interesting process. Again,
So-
not a sexy bill, but it's, go ahead, Holly. Sorry,
Well, that's something you've worked with our sheriff on. You've also talked with other sheriffs in your other counties, because that comes out of their budget, and their budget to the man hours, and able to get a chopper if you need one. All these different collaborations have to happen that cost the taxpayer money, but not the person who's actually hurt. It's the tourist that gets hurt. So how do you go about doing that? What kind of bill would that look like?
So right now, I'll use some of these rural counties I'm talking about, 4th through 6th class counties, your very small counties. They can use a certain amount of TRT revenue for things like EMS, search and rescue. But what we're going to do with this bill is give them a little bit more flexibility where they can use a bigger percentage of that. Twilla County, is a 3rd class county. We want to do kind of the same thing with Twilla County. And then with this bill, it's a little bit, I know we're getting close to session, but it is a little bit early to kind of spill the beans on everything we're doing. But
Sure.
You'll see some tax cuts in some other areas, and maybe a short increase in some areas to try to make that neutral. And at the end of the day, it's going to be good for Utahns. I feel pretty strongly about that.
Did he just say tax cut? What is that? What is this tax cut you speak of?
Yeah. So, well, stay tuned. Okay. So we're going to,
Excellent.
we're
And
going to
TRT is the tourism revenue, right?
That's right. Yep.
And so right now, that type of money gets allocated by our local government, our local council or whatever, and it's put into a budget, but then it's kind of restricted, correct? You can't spend from certain budgets for certain things, and you're going to maybe open it up so they have a little more freedom to use that money as needed for specific reasons, rather than you can only spend this amount, even though you've got this amount sitting in the bank.
That's right. Yeah. So like a lot of counties, they're by statute, in the Utah code, they have to use a certain amount of it for tourism related expense. Right. And so they've got to use it to promote tourism. And so what's happening is they go and they try to put money into tourism. Well, they don't really know where to spend the money. The other part of it is they're like, well, we're kind of already at capacity. Like we can't really bring more people in because we don't have the facilities. We don't have, and I'll just add this, there's a part of my district in Juab County, Little Sahara is in my district. And you look at a site like Little Sahara that people love to go and recreate, on a holiday weekend, you'll have 40 to 50,000 people visit that site.
Right.
And they don't buy gas or groceries in that county. Generally, they pull their nice fifth wheel to Costco and they load it up with food, and then they head to Little Sahara. And then meanwhile, a county like Juab County is really kind of left, hey, we've got to empty the dumpsters, and our landfill gets kind of, over full of trash, and there's a real cost to that, right?
And there's accidents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of them. Yeah. I mean, we all know people who've died down there.
Yep.
We all know certain teenagers who got chased around by their sheriff's department down there. Don't need to throw any names
We
out.
won't mention any names, Jared. I get
Yeah.
it.
Apparently we all don't know, but there's a story time maybe for us later. I wanted to ask you because you're absolutely right that we had a really, really tough election year for Utah and a lot of division within our party
No, we still
and in
have
the
it.
state. And so you guys have an opportunity to maybe fix and amend some bills and get the election stuff figured out, the signature route figured out. Would anyone be looking at figuring out SB 54? I know the House has been great about bringing it up, but the Senate not so much. Has this maybe changed some minds? Has it inspired someone to do more of the same or maybe less? The signature route, like what do you get like the feel? Is it fixable?
You know, I think I can't speak to SB 54 directly because you know my position on that, right? I'm a
Sure.
convention guy. Um, However, not everybody thinks the same way I do about caucus and convention. So I think regardless of whether we look at getting rid of the signature path altogether, I think regardless of that, we need to take a look at how our signatures are verified. We need to take a look. There's been things come up among my constituency, like, hey, how come the lieutenant governor handles our elections, right, and things like that, and
Sure.
that and I it's in our state constitution, like that's her role, lieutenant governor's role, whoever that might be. And so I think you something there's an appetite for right now is okay, let's look at how our elections are handled in general, who handles those elections, and what the role of the lieutenant governor really should be, right? And I think
But
that's fair. I think that's fair to assess that and see if it's something we ought to take a look at.
Bridger, we both know the lieutenant governor sets the standard, but it's the county clerks that do the elections
That's right.
in every county. So she's gotten a lot of pushback regarding elections, as you know, and she shouldn't be doing her own election type thing. And yet every county clerk manages their own county's process, but she sets the standard, or they set the standard, whoever the lieutenant governor is. And if we had a secretary of state that's been floated around an idea of that, then who would handle that person's election? Are we in the same boat? Or is that the answer? I mean, I know our Constitution says that it's the lieutenant governor that's going to handle it, but again, it's standards.
It is a tough one. It does have a visual of it visually looks flawed,
The perception.
regardless of how it's ran. And I don't know. I don't maybe have a different office run it, but is a different office equipped? And I don't know. I agree with you. SB 54 is one of those nightmare bills where, okay, if you want to have a party system, it's one of those bills that's going to make it complicated to keep a party system, because then you get competition within the party that comes from outside of the party. There's no reason why any Democrat couldn't get signatures to get on the ballot as a Republican.
It's the game, and it's the sandbox that we've created to play in. And anyone who wants to be on the ballot, they would be crazy not to participate in that game because it's the only way to get on the ballot. We have to deal with those exact. We have to figure out a very, very open, transparent way to check signatures if it's per county. So it's not one county clerk that's doing the checking. It's every county clerk checks their own signatures, and there might be a secondary that verifies the signatures that is out of the whole idea of politics altogether. They're merely there to be eyes on these signatures to validate them. So the perception is gone. But if we can clean up the signature path, if we're going to keep it, which it seems like we are, and as much as I would love us to go convention only, I understand why that we're not, because a lot of people have a problem with how convention and caucus is. because they don't feel like they're getting there, or there's a certain type of person that runs and wins. I get their argument. So if we're going to have this game in the sandbox, I would like there to be absolute clarity on every little situation that was called out in this last election, so
Yeah.
that instead of stopping the candidate from gathering signatures once they got enough, you give them that deadline day and they keep going till that deadline. I mean, that's one little tiny change.
No,
I would
absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Jared. I
just make it so you have to get a percentage in each county so that the counties all have representation show up, and you don't just gather signatures just in
Brilliant.
Salt Lake and Provo.
That's brilliant too.
So right now
I'd
you
make
got to
it-
gather, like for my district, you have to gather signatures. I need 1,000 signatures of Republicans, registered Republicans within my district. I can't go to, the population centers in my district. Really, the biggest city in my district would be Grantsville, right? And so
Right.
if I'm going to go get signatures, I would go around Grantsville and I would try to get those signatures in Grantsville. But I think, I sit on the Government Operations Committee, interim and standing committee, and the last 2 years, and I hear all the election bills. I think it's really important. I would say this, out of everything we're talking about, it's important for the public to show up to committee meetings, to be involved, and not just react when their candidate doesn't win, right? Like I would just, and that's the, Holly and I have talked about this, Jared, I've talked to you about it, but we want people to get involved, right? Get involved in the process and not just react when things don't maybe go the way they want them to go. And so I think it's valuable to spend time at the Capitol, spend time talking to your legislators, talking to your neighbors, tell them to go out and comment during the public comment periods that they have. It's an opportunity to have discussion, and I'm looking forward to that this next session. Just having discussion on, look, how do we fix these things? Because there is nothing more important, I think, than having Utahns feel like, the election's valid. They have confidence in their vote, and so, I think it's brought up a lot of good things, and I think, I look forward to working on fixing some of these issues.
I look forward to seeing what you come up with.
And I look forward as well. This is why we even do this little show that we do, is just trying to engage people and having you on, and it gives them a little bit of, it's a face with a name, and it also helps people understand that, your vote worked. You are working with someone who is so in tune. Of course, you're going to go to Grantsville first because these guys in Grantsville have known you since you were a wee boy. I mean, these are your neighbors. They're your wife's neighbors. She grew up there, and you're raising a family there. These things are so important. As a governor, how does that work? Are his signatures have to be spread out throughout the state, or can he get all of his signatures in one place?
So they can. I mean, they can. The way I understand, how it works as a governor. So he needs 28,000 signatures. They can go just within the Salt Lake area and get those signatures. That's the way I understand it. I don't know that.
Yeah, I thought so too. And maybe that's something that could, like Jared said, maybe he has to get them from all 29 counties.
Yeah.
Maybe not 28,000, it's based on populace, how many in each county.
No, I think that's a good thought. And I have heard people talk about this very thing. So, and it's an area that I haven't had to open any bill files in, because there's lots of folks working on that. So I'm just hearing bits and pieces. Look, I think for me, and I've always said this, I think the party should be able to choose how they pick their own candidates, right? Like, I think the legislature, I really, if I had it my way, the legislature would stay out of how the party picks their candidate, right? And they would just say, okay,
thank you.
If this is how the Republican Party wants to pick their candidate, I'm all for that. As an elected official, I look at every possible way to get on the ballot. This last go around, I didn't file to gather signatures. I filed for convention only, and that was before I knew if I was going to have an opponent or not, right? And because I love that interaction. I love that, going around. I feel like I can be myself, talk to people, and frankly, people that serve as delegates are usually we're kind of like-minded, right? And so I
Right.
think it's a fun interaction and a great experience, I think. But to have that choice, I don't know. So back to my comment, I really think parties should be able to pick the way they elect their candidates.
I
My
like it.
The biggest problem that I saw was, because I'm with you. I think delegates, they go above and beyond. They show up, candidates show up, and there are these personal one-on-one opportunities with candidates you would not have any other way.
Yep.
And I love that. What bothers me, and I know that it's the argument for count my vote, and the whole reason for this is we hit a primary and you see the vast difference. And I do want an average Joe or Jane to be able to go through the caucus convention system with very little money and get on the ballot because they're that good, and they can be Joe Citizen and win, but without money coming in. And the signature path does provide, that alternative if you have money to get in. But neither guarantees a win. And people forget that just
Yeah.
because you have money and just because you can play a ton of commercials, if you're a terrible, terrible representative and you've left a dumpster fire behind you, I think in Utah, the voters will recognize that. And I think this time around, there was such a vast turnout compared to what our delegates gave us, who we supported fully, and we supported our nominee. But once our Republican voters voted in the primary, it was such a different decision. And that's a tough line to walk. Do you represent 4,000 or do you represent 300,000 who show up in the primary? And after that, when you have a candidate who's running with a record of putting our state first and second and top 5 and top 3 and top 2 in the country,
Yeah.
it's hard to say that they were wrong about choosing to reelect our governor. Our governor's got an outstanding record on the stage. But as far as in party, there is a disconnect. So I would love the governor to be highly engaged in the party. I know you're highly engaged in the party. And I've seen the governor try, but I think if we can get these little bills, at least these little points made, and get the delegates' voices heard on a bill regarding this type of law, maybe outside, companies don't come in to do the signature gathering. Maybe it's got to be local, and
Yeah.
every single state, every single county should be represented, or I don't know what it is, but I think that there's an answer here.
Make it so it has to be volunteer only. You can't hire a company to harvest
Oh,
signatures.
wait. We could be rich. We open up a business where we gather signatures. So it's an opportunity.
There is, yeah, but I mean, however you do it, I trust you. I don't trust all your compatriots because I don't know them, but I know you. I trust you. I wanted to circle back. What was her name?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Do you remember the first
so-
press secretary of Biden? That was her.
Yeah.
Circle back.
We'll circle back that. You said you went to that natural resources meeting, and the president of Utah Power, or what's it called now? Rocky Mountain Power was there.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember towards the end of summer, we kept having like those rolling blackouts, like we'd have a blackout. And they said that's because they haven't tended to the brush or something. So they're afraid of a fire. So whatever. I'm not calling BS on it, but has he mentioned anything about that? Are we looking at living like Southern California from here on out, where when it's hot, they're just going to kill the power on us?
Well, I think it's a concern, right? Because as Utah grows, I mean, well, this is a big conversation, but let me organize my thoughts for a minute and just kind of tell you what's happening. So there was a fire in California that caught a bunch of power poles on fire and brought down some power lines, right? The way California manages their wildlands and their fires and their, is, I think they're a little backwards as far as their
You mean the way they don't manage their
the way they
wildlands
don't
and they
manage
restrict
their
clearing up?
wildland, right? And so they have this massive fire, they have some damage to a major system, and then there's this cost, and then they come back to the entire system to help cover the cost. So we as Utahns, I mean, they wanted to raise rates by 30-40%, right? And so meanwhile, the gas rates are actually going down a little bit. And so we look at that and we say, okay, well, why should we have to pay for California's mistakes? Okay. And so the legislature, the Speaker of the House and the Senate President met with Rocky Mountain Power some time ago and said, well, hey, rather than have Rocky Mountain Power, provide a service for Utah, why don't you disband and have it like your own sister company, your own entity that just manages Utah? So we don't have to, and let me add this too. So we don't have to pay for our brother's mistakes, right? Or California. And so, but part of that though,
I'm offended. You called them our brother.
You're assuming their gender.
You're assuming that I want
Yeah.
anything to do with them.
I'm sorry
Oh.
that I offended you guys, but anyway, it's interesting because in a state like California, they're pushing things like renewable energy, solar, things like that isn't, it works, but it's not as efficient, right? And so we're cutting capacity.
It requires exceptionally amount of electricity as well, which requires water that they don't have.
Yep, that's right. And so when we take a look at our state, one of the fastest growing states in the country, we have a need for added capacity of power. Rocky Mountain is saying we can't provide that extra capacity. Then we're at risk of, like Jared said, shutting the power off and things like that. So I think we as a state, you're going to see a lot of bills geared towards energy this session. They're going to be good things for Utahns to get affordable, reliable, dispatchable power to Utahns wherever you live, whether you're rural or urban or anywhere in between. But I think some of those things are some of the most important things that we'll look at this session.
Yeah, we need to just a message to them. I'd say, look, if you guys don't want to be reliable and you want to lean on our people to cover the bills of them, we're going to break up your monopoly. We'll do a state Sherman Act.
What about the word nuclear? Do you think that is being considered in this session? Because I know John Curtis talked about it. I know the governors talked about it. Is nuclear power something that we could possibly be looking at for Utah?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's, historically what's happened in our country is nuclear has been a nightmare to permit, right? And so we've got now there's technology with mini nuclear plants that are kind of modular and that to me that has to be part of our future in the state of Utah, because we can't continue to grow and rely on and get rid of our reliable coal-fired power and just try to make up the difference with solar and different things like that, right? And so nuclear is super efficient. It's safe if we do it the right way. So my hope is, and I think Americans spoke, right, this last election, like we have the House. When I say we, Republicans, we have the House and we have the Senate, we have the presidency. My hope is that we make a more streamlined process to permit these types of facilities. So that's what I think we're going to look forward to in this next administration.
Would be the first nuclear power idea. I mean, it's been the 70s since they built something of that size, but other places are trying it, I believe, now.
Well, France has
in the United States.
Yeah, but France has an exceptional model for bringing nuclear. They, like you said, they build them smaller, modular. They're the same every time. They've got the engineering worked out. And so it's made it cheaper.
And they've had trial and error. And so they know what works, what doesn't.
Yeah.
And water is a big deal. And I know, has it been decided how much are we having to give up water to California in all of this with their bad management?
I think you're supposed to say steal at the end of that? Are we still giving? Yes. Yes.
But I
and
know
yes.
they wanted more.
Yeah, no, we're not giving California any water. So
Okay, I love it. Well, we only got you for half an hour,
I
but
do-
I feel like we
I do have one more
questions.
follow-up.
yeah,
So, as a person who is now back in the blue collar workforce, and Donald Trump brought it up, eliminating overtime taxes, and as a person who commonly works some overtime, both the feds and the state totally make it almost not worth it to work overtime. What can we do legislatively to say, hey, we've got to, I mean, can we make it so when someone works overtime, they stay in the same tax bracket at the same tax rate? Because although my last check, I drove my check up an extra 80%, and
Wow.
every bit of it they stole away. Every
Yeah.
bit of it. I made the
State
same
and
amount. Oh yeah. I made the same amount as if I had not worked any. What can we do about that?
Yeah, it's, we're always looking at ways to cut taxes. One of the things that we look at as a state, and I always try to remind people this, and you guys know this, but we're different than the federal government. We're, constitutionally, we have to balance our budget every single year. So it's a real balancing act. Like these tax cuts that we make as a state, as a legislature, they do mean something. That means when we cut taxes by $300 million, we've got to come up with that money somewhere else, right? So I think it's always being looked at, to answer your question, Jared, and I'm with you, right? I'm with you. Like when I've had hourly jobs and I'm working overtime, and I hate to see that, right? They take that, a huge chunk of it, and you're like, why am I doing this? But we just continue to look at ways to. Something else we're looking at is cutting taxes on Social Security. Even
Yeah, we're one of 9
right?
states in the country that do it. Why are we taxing a tax
Yeah.
on our most
Yep.
needy?
No, I think so. These are some of the things I'm talking about earlier when I said, look, I was one that was critical of the legislature, right? Like, hey, why don't we just get rid of XYZ tax, right? But now that I have been there, I'm like, okay, they're real costs, and it means we're going to have to come up with the money from someplace else, And so I'm with you. Like anything we can do to cut taxes, we've got to be able to do that. So
Well,
I don't know the answer for that specifically, Jared, but
my question on that is, so I've got an hourly rate, and the government knows what my hourly rate is and has that expectation is. But if I work overtime because I put in extra effort, all of a sudden the government, I kid you not, I got taxed at 40%, 40 to 45% of my paycheck. Now, most of that's feds and all that other stuff, but it'd sure be nice if 5% of that was shaved off so that it at least looked like I put in extra effort, towards my pay.
yeah, no, you're right. Well, even people that sell property and pay capital gains tax, right, and things like that, it's it's crazy, some of our
From
tax.
cradle to grave.
Yeah,
Well, if
I don't have the answer for you on that one, but that I do know that we're always looking at ways to help Utahns and be able
if the federal government decides to get rid of the Department of Education and it comes back to the states, is that something that's going to cost us more, or are we pretty much able to manage that?
That's a big
'Cause,
one.
I mean, this upcoming session, you guys have got to have that in your minds. If Trump keeps his promises, it comes back to the states as I want it, you want it. Most of us want our state having its own control. I'm just curious. I mean, you probably got a lot of consideration of bills that have that in mind, right? That's probably in a lot of discussions.
I don't know that specifically. I'm with you though. I mean, I tend to agree with you on that. I think it would be great if the state could just manage its own education. I'm one, I have to apologize. I am one that stays out of education policy a little bit for a reason, because it's so complicated and there's a lot of folks that love to work on those things. So, but yeah, it's been talked about. I don't know of any bills specifically that would trigger that as a total policy shift for the state of Utah this session, but it could be something that's coming up in the future.
I'm curious of what that looks like.
Yeah.
And we've kept you over, and
Thank you very much, Bridger.
hi, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for watching.
Well,
thank you for everything.
Yeah, I just want to close. I saying to you guys, thank you for all that you do. I think you have a great service that you provide for. I mean, I know not just the Twila Valley and the Twila County community, right? It's a lot of people that tune into your show and listen to you guys, and you guys really do provide a great service. Taking time on a Friday night to do what you guys do, I think it's incredible. And Holly, you do a great job with the party, and appreciate all your efforts there. I tell people all the time, we have the best party chair in the state. So
thank you.
Jared knows that. Jared, thanks for all you do too. And we miss Dave too. Dave needs to join us time probably, but you still talk to Dave, I assume. But
all the time, every day.
And we have to have you come on one time when you're not so crunched for time. It's probably going to be after session for a recap, because I know during session you are from the morning till the night up there. And I hope, please let me know if there's anything going on during session that you want us to come to, or that you want me to advertise. We're happy to get some more people engaged up there for any of the bills you're working on. If you just want us to share whatever you want, we're here to help get what's in your brain out to the world the best way we know how. And then also through the party, I'm very happy to assist you there as well. Always.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, you guys, and appreciate all you do. And let's circle back after the session.
We'll circle back. Please give my love to your adorable wife. She's amazing. Yes. I hope you guys are doing well, and you'll be back on soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Bridger, and have a good session, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, Percival, you made it. I was worried we were going to get through a show without you, and you only need the power of Jesus to cause, for your power. That's great. You're great. We actually are on a few different platforms, so thank you for doing the person count.
Bridger's
circle back, David Weiss.
Bridger's, what's her name? P, starts with a P.
I can't remember now because I got KJP in my head.
Oh, she switched it to another P. She's on MSNBC now.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I could look it up because it's annoying me. But the second you said it, I knew exactly what you were doing.
Bridger's outstanding. Yeah, the overtime taxes, that's one thing now that I'm back in the regular workforce.
I can't believe that they can raise your tax rate in a paycheck. I thought that was something they did at the end of the year.
You should have, and I tell Katie about it. I know she just pulls her hair out. The power shutdown, Jen Psaki.
I think the P is silent.
The power shutdowns, those are the ones that was odd. At the end of summer, we had like 2 of them a week, like rolling blackouts. And I was like, what is going on here?
We have them so much in Stansbury. I don't know if it's normal.
They said it's because of the fire warnings, but I think we have a lot of growth, but California demands a lot more attention. And I think that's stripping us dry.
It's hilarious that California wants to go all electric cars and everything by 2030. They haven't built any new reservoirs. They've had plenty of rain the last 2 years. And here's the thing, folks. It's common to have rolling brownouts and rolling blackouts. And they want to go all electric, and their grid can't even handle what they have right now. And now they're actually giving people timelines within every day of which they're not allowed to charge their electric car.
My favorite was the month he signed the bill of no more internal combustion cars. The very month he put up, please don't charge your Teslas this month.
Don't charge them between it
was like a week and a half later.
10 p.m.
No, it was not at all. Don't charge them at all. We can. So yes, electricity is a big thing. We've become reliant on it. If we didn't have it, lots of people would perish. We do have to figure out how to make it more efficiently.
David mentioned nuclear power in Utah. David, you must have just tuned in, and Bridger
Yes.
just asked about you. But I asked if potential nuclear power is going to be a topic because he did mention that electricity and power is going to be a big topic on the Hill this year.
Mhm.
And so I asked, is it possible that nuclear power is up there? I know Senator Curtis has discussed it as being a viable option for Utah. The governor has mentioned that it is on the table for discussion. And so I'm hopeful
Yeah.
that it's going to be.
The state will have to fight the feds on getting that cleared. That's where the fight will be. So hopefully we can achieve that. SB 54, I think that's going to be a nightmare every time elections
already
come
is.
around. Every time until we get those bugs worked out. And
That's it. The bugs. They
Yeah.
need to get those figured out.
I'm not opposed to signature gathering, I guess, but and I just want to circle back again to the electricity. I
Okay,
know a lot
Jen.
of Republicans have a hard time with Curtis being elected because they see him as a rhino, but we do know Curtis has an environmentalist background, and maybe that'll be a good thing to fight for energy from a stance that is hard for the other side to attack. And maybe we can get an energy outcome of that. I'm going to choose to be hopeful on that one.
I don't know how. I mean, John Curtis started out as a Democrat, and he evolved and decided to be a Republican after serving in the House.
Was it in the House where he
Yeah.
evolved, or
And-
wasn't in the mayorship?
Maybe in the mayorship, but in the House he was a Republican. When I was in Milwaukee with him, we went to a climate event, a climate caucus event.
Mhm.
And I think that John Curtis he's brought something to the table that wasn't there prior. And he's
Yes.
brought Democrats to his side.
Yes.
And that thought is, you can't have all electric. You're always going to need oil and gas. So let's make sure that we collaborate properly and we do the best we can, because you need oil and gas to even create solar panels or wind farms.
We've got to replace calorically and not just replace like
Ideally.
build a wind farm and then do away with a power plant. We've got to, kilowatt hour for kilowatt hour has to be replaced and hopefully expanded upon. We are growing.
And he's been excellent at getting the other side to listen. And so much so, they brought him, he's on the actual board, on the climate,
Good.
board. And so he's at least a voice that is speaking logic. And, he knows a lot of people don't want farms like that in their backyard. Yeah, you can take the West Desert and put all your solar panels out there. Well, I'm sorry. The people in the West Desert maybe don't want that. Or it actually causes the temperature to rise highly wherever those are placed. Wind farms.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, if you look in Nevada where they have them, I mean, it kills anything around it because it's drawing that sun. And, Elon Musk said, if you put 100 miles long and 100 miles wide, you could fully power all of the United States. Well, you show me a place in what state wants that in their state when nuclear could solve all of that. And it's clean.
We need to look at multiple options. I would say, I mean, from what I don't know anything about France's nuclear plants. That's all I've heard. I can just repeat crap I've heard. But yeah, I don't know. It's good. We're lucky to have Bridger as a representative. He's a business owner. He recognizes that side of it. I do hope, and I'm going to hit Nicolene when she comes on next week, right?
Yes, we have Nicolene Peck coming on next week
and
to discuss.
I'm going to hit her with the exact same questions and maybe not the exact same. The overtime one, that's one I'm pushing now because it's personally affecting me and I'm selfish.
Will you write that one just in case?
Nicolene would be a big one on education.
Yeah, because, some of these folks, I mean, all of them come from different backgrounds, and you've got lawyers and doctors, and you've got ex-law enforcement, you have teachers. All these legislators are just like you and me. They all come from a background, a specialty, and that's what they try to do when they're in session. And that's offer. I mean, Tooele's representative he is an environmental engineer, and Tim Jimenez, he brought a whole new wing to the discussions on climate change or you know, energy. He brought a whole new perspective that even Democrats could get behind, because he was bringing science and facts. And he just really made a lot more. He was able to explain it in very, very good terms where we can understand it. He was an asset there. And I know that he didn't run. Nicolene has run and won the seat, but he has offered to consult on these matters. But that's his career, and that's what he does for a living.
Yeah, and he's also got a young family. I think the sessions took him away from his family at a time that was hard on him. So, I understand why he didn't run. Though I used to tease him and tell him if he ever tried not to run, I'd pull up in front of his house in a white van and
he was proven to be a huge asset. And I don't blame him for not running. I'm just saying he brought something to the Capitol and into these discussions that was highly valuable. And they recognized that, and he recognized it so much so that I think he would even consult in the future in order to give, the whole picture to those who are making laws about it, because they're making laws. People up there are trying to make laws about something they don't really understand per se. And you get someone who's a specialist in a field like that. It's really, really great. And our legislature is made up of all kinds of specialists, Nicolene Peck being one when it comes to families and
she's world renowned on families, child development, and all that. I am excited to see what she comes up with or what comes out of there. I hope it's all good, obviously. Even the most knowledgeable person can make mistakes on stuff. So I'm going to, watch and see, but I enjoy talking to her, and just hope for the best. I'd like to see Utah continue to do great things. SB 54, that's a complicated one, and it is literally split the party into.
It's been around for 10 years, and it has been
this go round
product of contention for 10 years. It just really, really blew up this last year.
It makes me wonder if are we going to have a solution to the current Cox-Lyman issue?
I'd love it
before the next election, because something like this would be sort of Damocles hanging over whoever, Cox's head.
Oh, I can imagine financially too with the courts. I believe Lyman is going to get a option to go to the Supreme Court with this. I'm not sure if our Constitution has a method to change anything. I mean, the voters have voted and they've chosen, but I'm not sure what the method is. And we're all learning right now. I just know that I would much rather the party not be so fractured. Personally, it takes a toll on every person that is trying to do the best by their voters. And it's hard waters to navigate, because you want your party unified, and they're not going to agree 100%, but you at least want them to be able to agree on 80. And they came together for Trump, and that's awesome. But as far as the state election went, that was really difficult, and I would love to see the party come back, together. And if that means we have to fix wording, I know at the SEC, we've fought for going on, I think it's 8 years now. We've been fighting this, and it's not going anywhere. We almost went bankrupt fighting this. We went to the state Supreme Court over it, and the party spent every last dollar trying to fight this bill, and we lost in the state Supreme Court. So again, they told us it's got to be legislator that gets involved. I like the privacy of our party being able to choose our own candidates, but
I still have kind of a hard stomach with private parties.
Right.
That a private entity holds a nation hostage. Two private entities hold a nation hostage.
But not in Utah. The state, the legislature is who broke that up.
Well, they still hold
So
us
the
hostage.
GOP
You still
doesn't
have
get to
to
choose its candidates.
you still have to fight to get on the ballot when the GOP gets right on the ballot. The broke up is in how the GOP chooses how they get on the ballot. The parties in every state still hold this hostage.
Sure.
And I still have a lot of heartburn with that. But as George Washington gave his speech where he said, don't do it, his vice president and his ambassador to France were doing it. So
It's true. And like in Utah, for example, if we had our way, we would just do caucus convention. The state party, that's in our bylaws.
what
that's
if it
our
was
whole
just
thing.
a state did a
But
whole
when the
caucus?
state came in and SB 54 came in, they had the referendum, they had the signatures to literally do away with caucus convention.
What if we just had a Utah party?
And it was a compromise. But what would the Utah party consist of?
Don't care.
It would just be
Just a madhouse.
no, it would be open primaries
Like a greased
California.
hog.
And I don't like open primaries. I like people to be able to talk to candidates and it not be money overall.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, we're coming up on the end of it. I didn't have anything else. I'm excited to see what Nicolene does. We didn't even get a chance to talk about all of the Trump appointments, and we don't have time to get into
minutes.
that. You did.
I mean, Matt Gaetz, do you think that was on purpose, or do you
I don't
think,
know. I've heard the conspiracy about it. I don't know.
I think that,
I don't look, man, that is some level of chess, the big ass so that he can get the little ass after. I don't know.
I don't know what
I
you're
don't
talking
know.
about.
They're a lot of people are speculating that it was a big ask so that he could get that lady he got in. I forget her name.
From Florida.
That Matt Gaetz dropped out of Congress so that Trump could say, hey, I want him as my, head of justice. And then
You're saying he was a ruse.
he was a ruse. And then he'll go back to Florida and DeSantis will make him the senator because Rubio has been moved
But
out.
DeSantis doesn't have him on that list to be a Senate person. And I'm not sure because he did resign from the 2024, but I don't know for sure if he resigned from the 2025 because he just won the election. So he could,
I don't know.
he could serve January 3rd if
We're
he
just-
didn't resign from that.
But I don't care.
I've heard
Our
a
parties
lot
are
about
screwing us.
Matt Gaetz and the allegations against him and the stuff that the past attorney general found is the CIA's involved. What do you know? And the FBI and all this, the guy that actually broke all this against Matt Gaetz. Like, it's very interesting. In fact, one podcast I just listened to kind of spelled it out because of all the leaked documents. And they're leaked, but I don't know if he was set up. I don't know the whole idea, but there was so much around that. I hope he stepped down. I'm glad he stepped down because it just does take away from the importance of what Trump needs to do. We can't have any questionable people at all. And we already know they're going to invent questions. We know that about the party. I mean, look at Kavanaugh and these other Supreme Court justices and what they were accused of doing 30 years ago. We know they're going to invent things and find things, but we can't have stuff that's actually legit happening and happened. So I'm glad he stepped down. I think his other appointments, I don't know.
I wonder what's going to happen with the HHS one.
Yeah.
Secretary of Intelligence, or I don't know. Hey, it's wild time. Politics, I guess. If it can't be honest, it can be entertaining.
It's stranger than fiction. If you wrote this stuff, you wouldn't read it because it would just be too unbelievable. Seriously, don't you think that? Like, I watched this and I'm just like, you couldn't make up a more absurd story, and yet here we are. Here we are. And folks, please tune in Friday when Nicolene comes on. We have her for an hour. And then The following
We're
Friday,
excited for that one.
we have Senator Scott Sandel
We're
tuning
very
in.
excited for
and
that
I'm
one. Scott
really
Sandel's one
excited.
of them quiet guys that's just
He's
grinding
a
in the
farmer.
background. Grinding in the background, making stuff happen and just quiet.
Yep, and he lives in Cache, and he's also represents us in Cache
Mhm.
County, and he's really, really well respected in our Senate. So he's involved
Mhm.
in a number of committees, and I think he would be a great person to talk about the bills, because the House and the Senate are two different entities totally. Like I said to Bridger, the House has brought up SB 54 before. Many have. It never gets to the Senate. They don't even pick it up. So I'm curious. I'm curious what his thoughts are on if it would be considered being picked up or if it's just a non-starter. Because at this point, there's so much contention in that race still. And I think that, of course, let Lyman should get to go to the court and have his argument heard. I would like to know what the options are. If in fact that there was something to avoid, if there was a way to fix this so that it was more transparent. I've been looking into, we talked about the lieutenant governor running elections. When you look at it, your county clerks run their county elections based on standards set by the lieutenant governor's office. These types of things, like when you really, it's important we dig down deep and figure out what's the problem before you try to fix it. And then what's the solution? And how do you fix it? All these questions and more, we hope we'll answer, or at least get, we'll hear from people who are far smarter than we are on the subject. And Scott Sandel, so he will be on.
We're excited to
following
chat
Friday.
with him.
But
Excited
tune in
to
this
check
upcoming
Nicolene before she goes to her first session as a representative. We're excited to chat with you all. Percival, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, Percival.
I dig the troll. Keep trolling us. Keep doing it. I dig it.
I am off to play my second night of Call of Duty. Do you know it took me 40 hours to download Black Ops 6? And I know this is crazy, but they've got so many problems. They've got
It's an adult woman with children, folks.
Oh yeah, but Call of Duty is the king of trolls, and I get to play with my team. And last night, I don't know if anyone watches, but the proximity chat, it's a chat that means if someone's near you, you can hear them, they can hear you, and so other teams hunting you. Well, right now it's broken, so the prox chat is open through the whole map, so you're hearing people talking that could be the way across the map. It's hilarious.
Bad words a lot. Tomorrow morning, I'll be heading up to the range. Going to do a quick familiarization course with a couple of young guys and, maybe some other people. Just some pistol familiarization and help them so that they are more safe and more competent with the weapon they have purchased. Just want to make sure that I want everyone armed, and I want everyone to be competently armed.
Hey, if you're interested, if you're watching this and you're interested and you are in Utah in a proximity to Tooele County, if you're interested in learning something like that, reach out to us, because Jared has the way to, get you trained, and he's an excellent trainer. And, a lot of people don't know where to go or, who to ask. Just reach out to the show.
One of the people who reached out to me is a hardcore Democrat, has been anti-gun, but they sent me a message and said, I think it's time we get a gun. Would you be willing to show us what to do?
I love it.
And I said, 100%. I said, I will hold their hand gladly through the process of shopping for the gun, everything about it. I am more than happy to do that because
you believe
I don't care what your political venue is, any of that. I am a firm believer in self-defense, the ability to protect yourself, and especially for the ladies, that it's a great equalizer. That is, I want to see a assaults on ladies plummet to zero.
Yeah.
100. You know what? Yeah.
When you are working with these people, do you go to the range and let them try a number of different guns first? Because I
Yeah,
know
if they wanna-
everybody's taste is different in
If
a
they want to
firearm.
try anything I have, most of the time we'd probably start out in the gun shop.
Right.
And let them, like I did with you and Lauren, let them handle different weapons. At the gun shop, we can do stuff there that gives you the chance to employ different guns and grade them according to how you feel, and that way you're not buying a
And
gun
you're
cold.
so good at that because you recorded everything that I was saying, that I liked this, I don't like this, just from unloading to loading to a second magazine, just the way it feels in your hand, how you're accurate with the target. And Tuesday night is ladies' night at Get Some.
Yeah.
So you can shoot there for $1, I think, and then you can rent their guns.
Yep, I'm a heck of a bullet Sherpa.
Right. Yeah, he's a loader, reloader. So also, I wanted to say that, reach out to us if that's something you're interested in. He's the guy to at least point you in the right direction or offer help. He's amazing. And there's a group of people that he works with that are amazing. And then also, we won't see you before Thanksgiving. And Friday is Black Friday.
Happy
I just
Thanksgiving.
remembered.
What? Oh, you can go to that. I'll do the show by myself. I am not going to Black Friday.
Well, I can do it online. So
I've been to a Black Friday here
been
in
to
Tooele,
many.
and it was a safe and docile Black Friday, and I still saw ladies wrestle over a doll.
Yeah, it used to be a tradition of mine. I would go to Black Friday after Thanksgiving. I would leave after Thanksgiving and be out all night Black Friday shopping. And I mean, you have to be crazy, and I was, but I also, I felt safe. I was prepared. But I have never
Chaos.
wanted anything bad enough to try to hurt someone over it. But
Chaos.
I think that companies have actually changed a little bit because they're not. I know Walmart, for example, if you're part of their Walmart club, you get all the Black Friday deals right now. They're on sale now. I mean, like a 75-inch television, smart television is $340. I mean, so those type of things and free shipping. So there you get access to that. And you get Paramount Plus for free and 10 cents a gallon off of gas. I think and free delivery on your groceries. I think it's paid for itself. We should do an
Walmart,
advertisement for them.
for this ad.
But I love it. And
all right.
Then, so for your Thanksgiving, we wish you a very happy, healthy, safe Thanksgiving. I know a lot of you are going to have kids home from school, some longer than others. So we just hope you have a wonderful week.
I hope the food is great. The family's great. The discussions, good topics this Thanksgiving.
I hope it's hope.
Talk about the weather because it's rather lovely here in Tooele right now. Who knows what Thanksgiving will bring, but I mean, we're talking 40 degrees in the AM. It's beautiful.
Let's just hope it's not discussion of nuclear war.
Yeah, let's hope that we can avoid that.
Let's remember to be thankful, and just that's what it's about, and that we live in a free country, and we're
supposed to be thankful for this grand experiment.
Well, I am, as interesting as it is. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. That's for sure.
Me too. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for your support, friends.
Have a good weekend. Be safe and everything.